Hello and welcome to this video where we'll actually go into doing some logical data modeling, so LDM, and physical data modeling, PDM. And for logical data modeling, I will be using lucidcharts, as you've seen in previous videos. And for physical data modeling, we'll go into a tool called dbdiagram. So here I'm in the browser in lucidchart, and let's create the logical data modeling of the e-scream example. So for the e-scream so first of all, if you don't have entity relationship and UML entity relationship, you should go into the search here and search for ERD, and then you pin these two. So by pinning these two, we have here this entity relationship, which we'll be using. And you can see here, there's a key field and there's fields here. And I'll choose this simple one here. And this is the entity that we will have. It's a customer. For the field, we have customer ID, first name, last name, create some more, address. However, let's keep it simple, and we have email as well. So note that right now we don't have any particular domain constraints, and that means we don't have any data types. We don't add any not null constraints and unique constraints, etc. So this is the logical data model. So I will copy this one, so Alt and drag it, or in Mac you use the Option key. So here we use order, and for order we have order ID, and then we have customer ID, and we have product ID, and then we have quantity. So note that this is the composite entity, right? It can also have an extra attribute, and this is the case here, that we have quantity as an extra additional attribute. And attributes will result in columns in the end, right? In the actual tables. So I'll copy this order again and call this product, and then we have product ID, we have name of the product, and we have price, right? So now we will drag the relations, right? So from customer ID to customer ID here. And the many side is on the composite entity. Product ID goes to product ID here. Okay, and with this you can see that a customer can make orders, right? And then you can also consider, depending on the business, is it a customer if the customer is not making any orders? So that is for the business rules to define. And let's say, for example, it has said that you need to have made at least one order in order to be a customer. Otherwise, you are not considered as a customer. It depends on the business rule. And also an order, it cannot exist without a customer, right? So then you have one and only one. And note, however, that when you come to dbdiagram later on, you'll see that these two bars doesn't exist, so that the one bar correspond to one and only one. And for 0 or 1, that is optional entity, then you have just an O or a 0. And here an order needs to have, or a product can be in 0 or many orders. Okay, so I've updated this diagram because it felt unlogical for me before when we had just a customer, order, and product. So now we instead have an order line in between, and I've changed the attributes a little bit. This makes more sense because an order contains several order lines, right? And an order line contains one product, but a product can be in several order lines. And an order can have several order lines, and an order line can only be part of one order. In my previous video, actually I made a mistake there that I only had customer, order, and product. It doesn't really make sense when you go into the logical modeling. So here in the logical modeling, and also I've lifted out so that the order line we have the quantity, and that makes sense because we could order one product and we could have several of that product. While in the order entity, we have the order date instead. Okay, so with this, and you can also make some more details here, that an order line, it has to contain one and only one order, right? So that we have this one. And an order line needs to contain one product ID so that it becomes this one. You cannot have an order line without a product in it. Okay, so yes, this physical or this logical data model I'm quite satisfied with. For going back to the conceptual modeling, then you just remove all the attributes and you have the conceptual data model. Also, one thing to note is that doing data modeling is an iterative process. You realize that somewhere you made a mistake and then you recreate it, right? So the design is iterative. It's not that you have to follow a certain design all the way. Because you notice there's something wrong, you go back, you fix the conceptual model as well. Okay, so I'm satisfied with this one. Let's go on to dbdiagram. And here in dbdiagram, let's create the tables. So we have table customer, and here I have customer ID. This is integer, and it's a primary key. And then the next one is first name, and this here we have varchar. And here you choose a value that is suitable, and I've chosen 50 because I've searched up how long are the names in general. So then I have 50, not null. Yeah, so not null means that we don't allow nulls here. And in primary keys, you don't allow nulls in general. And then we have last name, varchar 50, not null. And what else do we have? We have address and email, right? Address, varchar 100, and not null. And then we have email, varchar 255, not null unique. And afterwards we have table, we have the order table, and the order table contains order ID. This is integer, let's say integer primary key, and then we have customer ID. This is the foreign key, right? So this is integer. And in order to make it into foreign key, we need to link them. So we do a ref here. Or first of all, the customer ID, we put it as not null. I cannot have an order without a customer in it. So I need to put it as not null. And then ref. Okay, so we need to reference the customer. So we reference the customer. So customer dot customer ID. Okay. And then you can see here it goes from, it's a one-to-many because if I change it to other side, then you can see the many goes to the other side. But we want the many to point towards the order table. So one-to-many here. And let's see, then we have a customer ID and we need to go into here to check. Let me see. We check customer ID to the order, right? And then we have order date. And we need the order line. Order date, and this is a date, and order date is not null as well. Not null. Okay, and now let's create another table called the order line. And the order line contains order line ID, product ID, quantity. Order line ID, it's an integer. Primary key, we had product ID, let's say we have a customer ID, order ID, integer, not null, because order line needs to have an order, right? So not null, and it needs to reference, so it references the order ID. Product ID, it's an integer, not null. It references product.product ID. Okay, and then we need to create a table called product. And here we have product ID, and this is integer and primary key. Cool, and here you have this is the bridge table or the composite entity, the order line. And we have a product ID. What else do we have in product? We have name, and this is varchar, and depending on how long your names are, let me see let's see, 50 for example, and not null as well. We need to have a product name, and then we have price, integer, not null. So here you can see, is one and many, and when you hover over them, one and many, and one and many. Okay, does this make sense? So we have product ID, and let's see, product ID, the primary key here, and the many side we have the foreign key, right? So we have many side, foreign key. Here's the many side is foreign key as well. A customer can make one or more orders. An order can contain one or more order lines. An order line can contain one and only one product. And we go backwards. A product can be in several order lines, can be in 0 and several order lines. An order line can be in one and only one order. And an order can be associated with one and only one customer. Okay, so this makes sense. Yes, and I will also show you one more thing. So copy this one, and then you go into Visual Studio Code. And in Visual Studio Code, you create a file that ends with dbml. And you need to download this, let's say dbml. When you download this one, you can make this diagram here, and then you can click on this show diagram, and you can see the diagram here. Let me just move them around a little bit. Order, I'll move it here. Yes, so that you can do local development. And when you're doing local development, you get the benefit of you can source control it, update the dbml physical model like this. Okay. Great. So now you've seen me going through logical data modeling and physical data modeling. First, logical data modeling in lucidcharts, and figured out that there was something wrong with the actual model. We modeled it a little bit wrong, and then updated it, and then going into dbdiagram and doing the physical modeling. So hopefully this was that you learned a lot from this video. So thank you for watching this video. See you in the next one. Bye.